Mr. Shimko. I hope that you refresh your little thing here soon, because you're going to see that I am here. I am live, and no one in this world can stop me. I cannot be thwarted. I cannot be stopped. I cannot be thwarted. Nobody can stop WassamattaU. Oh, there's Jenny. Okay, you're the first one in here. All right, so I couldn't figure out how to title my live stream here, but if anyone is interested, I'm going to be doing an in-depth talk about relic hominins, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and human evolution, and why it didn't happen, all the proof that it didn't happen, and why it is that the so-called pre-humans, that's the ancestors of the relic hominins that live in the woods all around us. And in Australia, you guys have some bipedal marsupials that are convergent species. They've convergently evolved, meaning just like you probably already know what it means, but just like a squirrel, a flying squirrel here in North America, and you've got the sugar glider there in Australia. Yeah, the sugar glider. And those are two convergent species. They're very much just the same species almost, both in their appearance and in their behaviors. And yet they're not really related at all. One's a marsupial down there in Australia, and the other one is a North American and probably a Eurasian species as well. Yeah, I'm sure they have them there. Flying squirrels. And similarly, down there in Australia and New Zealand, you guys have the yowie, the zowie, I don't know, there's at least 3 or 4 different bipedal hominin species that you guys have down there. I'm sorry, bipedal species, they're not hominins. There's never been hominin bones found anywhere in Australia or New Zealand or New Guinea. Nowhere. Hominin bones have never been found in those places, meaning what is down there in Australia, while they're very definitely real, they are not hominins. Because again, there's no fossil record for hominins, and this is a good jumping off point for what my stream is going to be talking about here. Like, I will now update everyone who's just popped in the room, which includes Mr. Osgood, welcome. William L, welcome. NH Mountain Girl, welcome. End All Immunity, great. Marianne, okay, there's Mr. Bones. NH Mountain Girl. Here are a few people. I want you guys to connect with each other as much as possible. So I'm gonna mod people here that I know. So and that's not just so you can sit here and snipe trolls off. I don't really care if trolls are in here. You guys can snipe them if they're bothering you, but I don't really want them sniped in general. But if they bother you, you know, hey, whatever. So here I'm making NH Mountain Girl is now a standard moderator. End All Immunity is going to be a standard moderator. And as I was telling people here before, some of you just arrived, William L, you're going to be a standard moderator. And again, you guys hook up with each other now. Get each other's channels. Subscribe. Maybe leave a comment under a short saying, hey, I was here. I'm at WassamattaU's live with you right now, and to check out more after he's off and I'm done being enthralled, but with his live, I'll come back and check out your stuff. You know, do that kind of thing. But definitely hook up with each other one way or another. Wheatsart. Okay, Wheatsart can have a wrench, so can Steel. I don't know about Steel Man. I'm not sure if I can mod you, Steel Man. No, I'm just kidding, buddy. Of course, Steel Man gets an odd too. And again, as I was telling the others, that's not there just so you can pick off trolls. Although, if there are trolls that bother you, go ahead. I'd rather not have them picked off. But if they bug you, go ahead. And yeah, so I'm making you a moderator there, Steel Man and Wheats Art, and that's so that you guys can go around and you know, connect with everyone else that's here. Go to their channel, leave them a comment under a short or something like that saying, you know, hey, I was at WassamattaU's live with you. Nice to meet you. I'll be back to check out more later. You know, hopefully they're going to also return the favor. So that's what that's for. It's not just to, and also please don't snipe each other out. Okay, and this stream right here, as promised, is going to be about human evolution and relic hominins and why it is that human evolution did not happen, and at least not in, yeah, it didn't happen, and also why, you know, what is the pre-human fossil record, which I'll just say quickly to begin with. In short, it is the ancestors of the still living creatures that live in wilderness areas all around us. We just don't see them very often because they're very good at being elusive. And they're like Army Ranger, Navy SEAL, ninjas, and you can probably add Jedi on there as well with some of the very credible eyewitness reports of what capabilities these things seem to have. So, you know, Army Ranger, Navy SEAL, Jedi, Ninja times 1,000, 40 times stronger than stronger than 40 very buff men. One of these creatures, a male, like a, you know, a dominant male is going to be. They've picked up really credible reports and you know, evidence left over afterwards, namely the boat of one of these hominins picking up a fiberglass boat off of a trailer boat or a bass boat. I can't remember which one. But any of you who know anything about how heavy those types of boats are, this thing actually yanked it off the trailer, broke the straps that it was strapped on there with, and tossed the damn thing, but back to the water. And it had just been pulled out of the water, which goodness knows how many gallons of water, you know, even in a good boat, you get it. If they've been out all day, there could have been quite a bit in the bottom. Whatever the case, it threw the damn thing down the boat ramp, sent it skidding. That's how strong these things are. They've ripped the doors right off of vans, cars, equipment, construction equipment left out in the woods. They've picked up and tossed gigantic tires that mini men couldn't pick up and let alone throw. Mini men together, I mean, could not pick up, let alone throw anywhere. They've thrown big barrels full of heavy stuff and, you know, even the equipment sometimes down the hill. That's how strong they are. And we can also tell that by looking at their fossils. So I'm going to jump around here a little bit, but I'll keep coming back. Let's see if there's anybody else who needs Jody. Jody definitely needs to be wrenched. That's my girl right there. That's one of my online wives. I have no idea whether she'll cringe at me saying that or just laugh, but hopefully laugh. I'll probably get a lawsuit, a harassment. I'm a harasser. I'm harassing somebody. Okay, Jody Shiloh's now. Red Bull Princess, you can also have a wrench. Everybody who gets a wrench, please go around and connect with each other, get each other's channels, use your power for good, not for evil. It's great responsibility that I'm placing in your hands. A couple of you surprise people will even get managing mod status. So if you do, don't be surprised. But actually, I don't think I'm going to do that to anybody, because then you can't comment on my shorts if I do that. So people who already have that, I'll probably leave it at that, because they already can't comment on my shorts and possibly not even my videos. So yeah, all right. I'm not going to, on second thought, I'm not going to managing mod any of you, but I will mod you all, and that's so you can hook up together. Check your charger connection. No, don't do that to me. Okay, slow charging. It's still charging. Jody got Okay, so I was talking about there are no, and I always will, or mostly will remember when I go off on these tangents, I'll mostly remember where I left off, and I do, and that was that there's a fossil record for these creatures, and we can tell how strong they were by looking at their bones, because the thickness and the size and density, I should say, of your bones is a function of the strength of your muscles, because if your muscles were too strong, obviously they would snap your bones. And that's why people who run, walk, work out until they're older, they don't have osteoporosis and whatnot, because their bones stay strong to keep those, their muscles, they've got to withstand the strength of the muscles. So we can tell how strong they were by looking at the density and size. It's like broomsticks compared to shovel handles, or even stronger, their bones compared to our bones. And that's just the size. Then you add the density, it's like hardwood shovel handle or fiberglass shovel handle compared to like cheap ass cedar broom handle or something like that. And that's a function of their muscle strength, which is going to be in the range of 12 to 40 times that of a very strong human, depending on the size of the hominin. If you look at like Homo heidelbergensis, that's a creature that was literally 10 feet tall at 12 years old and just a monstrosity. Even Neanderthals, which, by the way, I'm going to say something right now that'll shock many of you to hear, and you'll maybe not even believe it at first, but it's true, and there are Neanderthals still alive on the planet today, and I'll explain that coming up here in a little bit. Why that is, and why we know that is, how we have the proof of that. But continuing on with the fossil. So we have the fossil record from all over the world. These hominins were, except Australia and New Zealand, New Guinea. They have apparently never existed there. That's why we know that they are not there now. And these species that people see there that look very much like hominins, there's a guy that I didn't even realize this until recently myself, but there was a guy that I listened to who's been researching there for like 50 years. And he was the one who broke it down that, hey, these are not hominins. These are marsupials, bipedal marsupials that they've gone through convergent evolution, so that they're very much like hominins. Excuse me one second. Okay, I'm starting to get snotty. It's cool out here. Yuck. Okay, they are convergently evolved species. So basically they, just like squirrels, flying squirrels and sugar gliders, look very much the same and act very much the same. Even though they're not related, they've evolved to be near identical species because of the surrounding environments are similar enough that that's what they create. And it's not just the environment is similar enough, but it's also that the form is efficient enough. And so it tends to be a form that's successful and survives. And that's true of the bipedal creatures that they have there in Australia, New Zealand, and New Guinea, which this guy that's been studying them for all that time, he is a brilliant guy, and he laid out not just the fact that there are no hominin bones ever been found in Australia, New Guinea, or New Zealand, but also that their fingernails and are like that of a marsupial, meaning they're not flat on the top, they're rounded on the top, and they tend to curl out into pretty nasty claws. And you can see that in their footprints and in their handprints that people have gathered. They're not relic hominins, they are marsupials, bipedal marsupials. And I don't know why our science, just because our science has not explained that yet, just looking at the success of the hominins all over the world, how successful they were, that we know they were, and that science even acknowledges that they were. At one time, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of different kinds of, quote, pre-humans, none of which are pre-humans, but walking around the planet and sharing the planet at one time. And they're extremely successful. They can take a lion head on, just rip it to pieces. They can take on virtually anything in the wild that would challenge them. Bear, there's a good story in Alaska of a place called Bear Island, and these fishermen that fish off this island regularly, they knew of this bear out there that was the dominant bear, a big old grizzly bear, 12, 13 feet tall when it stood up, that kind of thing. They had a name for him, I can't remember what it was, but one day they were fishing in this bay off that island, and they saw this dominant male bear come running out of the bushes onto the beach and go sprinting down the beach with its tail between its legs. And they were going, what on God's green earth could possibly have scared that freaking bear like that? And then, of course, about a 12-foot tall Relic hominin that's like a Volkswagen on tree trunk legs came walking out onto the beach and roared a little bit at them. And they pulled up anchor and left. But you can watch that interview. That guy, that old fisherman, they give him a lie detector test, which he passes. An ex-CIA woman analyzes his story, and she says that he at least believes he's telling the truth. And then they give him a lie detector test. He passes that, and he's just like, I don't care. Maybe they didn't give him the test. Maybe it was just the CIA woman, but whatever. He's like, I don't care who believes me, who doesn't. And you can tell he doesn't. And he's telling the truth. Anyways, that's how big and badass these creatures are. There's just not much that can menace them in the world, and it's a very successful form. And so you wouldn't be so surprised to find that some of these marsupial species down there in Australia and New Zealand and New Guinea had evolved into a bipedal form. It's a very successful form that makes a very powerful, very useful frame and very useful set of skills where you can make basic tools. I can't remember this researcher. I can't remember if he said that they'd ever found any basic tools made by the marsupials down there, the bipedal marsupials, the wowie, zowie, all them. He didn't. I don't remember if he said or not, but I can just about guarantee you that they've been known to pick up human tools and utilize them, things like that. Sometimes even put on human clothing. That's not as common, but it happens. And usually it's kind of funny. They put it on all backwards and messed up or wrong, incorrect. But yeah. Second. I've got to light me a cancer stick. Okie dokie. So now that we got that ugliness out of the way, there's Chevy. Oh my goodness, it's Chevy. Welcome, Chevy. Okay, so what I was talking about, and I'm going to dare walk over towards these teenagers over here that are spending their Saturday night in the rain underneath this covered area, probably drinking and smoking weed and hoping that some old codger like me doesn't come walking anywhere near them. I'm going to ruin their fun. Hey, I should have just brought out something for them, like some gummies or some banana mac or something. Just been like, here, I'll commit a crime right on a live stream and give some minors something. No, that'd be bad. Watch them ask me for cigarettes too, and I'm gonna have to say no, no sir. Okay, I'm not gonna walk by them and bother them. Anyways, so I was talking about the hominin bones and how much stronger Can anybody hear me at all? Kevin Bearnareski, you get a mod. Can anybody hear me? Damn it. Nobody can hear me, huh? That's a 1. You can hear me? Give me a 5x going in and out. I'm back. Okay, what the heck? It doesn't look like anything's changing here. So somebody's gonna have to tell me, where did I leave off? Where was I just babbling from henceforth without anybody being able to hear me? God, I wonder what that was. I didn't change anything. Well, okay. So was I all the way, had I spoken yet about convergent species in the yowies and zowies in Australia? Darn it. Only about 30 seconds? Okay, good. So all of that's been spoken about basically. And geez, now I don't usually get off track, but no, okay. So I had said what I was going to do now is go back and here, I'll try to just sit still for a little bit too. I was going to go back and do this in a little bit more organized way and start talking about the fact that humans did not evolve on this planet. So around 300,000 or 400,000 years ago, somewhere in there, and it's hard to tell. It's hard to say, even with what scientists find, sometimes multi-million-year-old human skeleton pieces or whatever. It's hard to say what that is. I mean, that could be time travelers that have went back in time. That could be another species that just happens to look very similar to us and was not a human species. Maybe one that died out, or maybe an alien species. That's probably the most likely. But whatever the case, it's hard to really just trust what science says. But it appears to be the case, almost undoubtedly, that 300,000 or 400,000 years ago is when humans basically appeared on this planet, looking absolutely nothing like anything that's come before us. Not even close. There is a missing link, and I was told growing up all this time, this lie, that there was no missing link. There is a missing link, and not only that, the missing link would need about 50 cousins standing on either side of him to account for the difference between what they want to say is our ancestor and us in evolutionary terms. The jump is just inexplicable. Like, how we suddenly have this straight up forehead and this straight up standing spine. We don't have, they have the upside down funnel shaped rib cage. That gives them a lot more power because they've got these muscles that actually attach. They got no neck really to speak of, and these muscles that attach to the top of their head and then to their arms. It allows them to wing their arms, and it adds an immense amount of power and strength to them to have that type of a setup compared to our setup standing up straight with the more basket shaped rib cage. We can't get anywhere near the power that they can in the upper body. It's just, even if we had the muscles, which we just don't. But so that all those changes, and including they had a hinge in their foot. I mean, there was just a massive number of differences. And they can't be explained through evolution, not through a single missing link who we've been looking for 171 years now and have never found so much as a freaking fingernail of, and we never will, because it doesn't exist. There are no intermediate species. There's just them and then us all of a sudden. And however you want to believe that happened, personally, I think the Sumerian story pretty much clicks and works in just about every way conceivable, and it seems that's something that would have been impossible for the first civilization who invented writing and invented civilization, just suddenly, once again, boom, popped up out of nowhere, just like we did when we appeared on the planet. But whatever, that was 6,000 to 10,000 years ago, they say. It was probably actually longer ago than that, but whatever. You know, their story makes a lot of sense to me, and it seems to fit with all the facts. I mean, I have not found a fact yet that it doesn't fit with, but whatever. So we appear on the planet, and we are a vicious, two-legged predatory species. We are vicious two-legged hyenas, and we do not permit threats in our vicinity. We just don't tolerate it. If there's a bear that might attack a human or anything around, we will gang up, horde up, you know, the townspeople will get their pitchforks and take care of it. And that's true of these hominins as well. Now, another thing that's true about humans is, besides our savage territorial imperative, our just absolutely savage territorial imperative, and the fact that you don't want to compete with a human, it's not just even territorial from threats. It's also anything that competes with us. If you compete with a human as a species, you're going to lose. It's a death sentence for your species. If you predate on us, or and this has just been true for a lot longer than modern times with modern weapons. Again, we are vicious, two-legged hyena pack animals, but much wickedly smarter and more ruthless. And we don't tolerate such things, competition or threats in our vicinity. And so what happened is, I'm sorry, I've skipped. What I was saying is another element besides all that of humans is that we can't hack it in the deep jungles and forests and woods and swamps, the secondary ecological niches on the planet. We just can't do it. Our skin is not tough enough. We can't even withstand the radiation of our own planet. How does a species on its home planet evolve to not be able to withstand the radiation from their own planet, where they need to have clothing and shelter? If you take away our clothing and our shelter and make us live like everyone else, most of us are going to be dead within about 2 weeks or so. And by everybody else, I mean all the other species on the planet. We can't make it, and we also can't make it in these secondary ecological needs of the world. There are a very tiny number of indigenous people that live in environments like along a river's edge. They cut their own little roads and trails through there. They alter the environment in the way that no other animal does, just to be able to survive there, and they have shelter. They have their little mud huts or whatever, because humans just can't make it without it. You know, like I said, if you took away everything, all that stuff from us, some of us might be able to make it to the equatorial regions and survive without clothing and everything, but some of the more melanated people. But generally speaking, somehow we evolved to need clothing just to survive the radiation of our own planet, the hot and the cold. Otherwise, we freeze to death or we burn and get sick. That doesn't make sense to evolve. How do you evolve to need to boil the water just to drink it on your own home planet? How do you evolve to need to cook all the food just to eat it? How do you evolve a crazy, messed up walk like ours? It doesn't make any sense. If you talk to a locomotion specialist, I was talking about this yesterday. The way that hominins, and most likely even these bipedal, I wouldn't be surprised if these bipedal marsupials are exactly the same. They walk in a completely different way than us. If there was an alien species, let's say a quadruped alien species that came to Earth, or one that floated in the air, and they were really smart scientists and they wanted to do an evolutionary model on how bipedalism would evolve, they would most definitely come up with a model almost exactly how the hominins walk. Because our walk is completely messed up. We're putting our foot down where we kill off all of our momentum. Then we throw ourselves through our hips around the arch of our feet where we regain a partial amount of that momentum. Then push off just using one toe as a balancer. It doesn't make any bloody sense. Somebody needed to go back to the drawing board. It's a messed up walk. It's not very efficient. The only thing it's good for, and maybe this was on purpose, is that we can basically run long distances. But even then, our joints tend to wear out at an oddly young age, and it appears that whoever created us put telomere caps on our second and third base pairs of DNA, shortening our lifespan, blocking us off from our true potentials in art, math, science, whatever, intelligence, and yeah, shortening our lifespans, because you don't want, if you're making a slave species, and I do believe we were made as a slave species, you don't want your slave to be anywhere near as smart as you are, or your slave for very long. Not very long. So I would say they were not wrong if they were going to make us anyways to do those things, because yeah, otherwise they would have surely had human revolts on their hands all the time. And by the way, a really quick note, that was after they first tried making automatons, or AI, and the darn thing just turned on them and they barely shut time before. This is in a 6,000-year-old mythology, mind you. They barely shut the damn things down in time before their species was ended, and they said, oh, no more of that. This time we're making a biological slave. If that ain't a lesson for mankind, I don't know what would be. But anyways, going back to the subject, there's so many things about our body that just don't make any bloody sense, evolutionarily speaking. It just wouldn't happen. And I'm continuing to talk about the hominin walk. So compared to the walk I just described that we do, the hominins, they actually thrust the knee forward, then they swing that lower leg out really far in front of them and put it down. It's got a hinge in the middle of it. So they then proceed to just kind of, this is why it looks like they're, people say, if they can't see the feet of the things, like on the other side of a bush or whatever, and the things are traveling along, people say that I thought it was on a bicycle until it came out of the other side and I could see that it was walking. Because they don't have any up and down. That's highly inefficient. You don't want the up and down. It also draws attention. It's just bad all around. It's not something you would evolve to ever have if you were bipedal, not naturally. And anyway, so they don't bob because they just kind of float out over that foot that they've stuck out there and planted. And there's a hinge on it, so they just hinge right over the top of it. That's why their strides are so long. They're much longer than would just be accounted for by the difference in the legs of the length of their legs from ours. Much longer, and that's why. And that's a very efficient walk. It's good for going through snow. It's good for going over rocky terrain, logs, whatever, you name it. As I was saying last night, our walk, we're just barely clearing the ground with that dragging foot. That's why it's so easy to trip on uneven sidewalk and such. Like, I have to basically watch the whole time I'm walking. I don't want to do a face plant on a live stream. Not at all. And so their walk is much more efficient. It's what you would expect from an evolved walk. And so what happened is, we appeared on the planet that X number of years ago. We can't survive in the secondary ecological niches of the world. And so we took over the primo ecological niches of the world, the nice places to live, the prairies, savannas, grasslands, steppes, lightly wooded areas, places like that where there's plenty of food, plenty of water. You know, life is easy compared to these secondary niches where it's extremely hard terrain. There's nastier bugs and snakes and other things that'll unalive you, and they're just harsher environments. And so and like I said, we don't allow threats in our vicinity. We have a savage territorial imperative. So as we took over all of the primo ecological niches where tons of these hominins lived, including Neanderthals, and I'll get more into that in a minute, they just basically walked until we stopped harassing them, which is when because they can pop our heads off easily, like pimples in a fight, 1-on-1 or 1-on-10. However, us being these vicious pack animals that use tools and whatnot, we can actually get the better of them as long as it's daylight. Now, they have nocturnal vision, we don't. Pretty much all primates do, not all of them, but yeah, we don't. They do. We don't even fit the definition of a primate in so many ways, it's ridiculous. But moving on. We wanted to take over all these primo ecological niches on the planet, and we did. And they just walked until we stopped harassing them, which was when they reached these areas where we can't really hack it. We'll burn it down. We'll live along rivers that run through it. We'll make trails through it. Generally speaking, we cannot hack it in there. And they have no problem. They don't care. The cold doesn't bother them. You know, they have tough skin and huge muscles. They can go up a 100-foot tree in a blink of an eye, or up over a sheer cliff. If you listen to the kind of lost first-hand account of a Sasquatch encounter on my channel, and you can tell the guy's telling the truth. He shot one of these creatures through the neck, and it appeared to die. Whatever the case, it was a 600, 700 pound, what he believed to be a female, because he couldn't see any genitals on it, unlike the other one. And it just had kind of a puffy bitness to his chest and whatnot. Anyways, as he's running away after that, this 12-foot one comes out, or 10 to 12-foot one comes out from behind the laurel thicket, and it's just huge. And it picks up the 600, 700 pound mate or sibling or whatever it was. Child, maybe. I don't know. It seemed to be an adult, I guess. But anyways, it picks that up, puts one hand up on a 40-foot sheer rock cliff. And the guy says, this mofo is straight up. He's trying to describe how steep it is. He's like, it's straight up. He's like, and this thing, it grabbed that 600, 700 pound companion of its, and like a rag doll. Like there wasn't no effort to it. Walks up to this 40-foot sheer cliff, puts one hand on a rock there, which later on, when he came with the Fish and Wildlife guy, they found that big bloody handprint there. Goes up over this 40-foot sheer rock wall, like no effort, he said. It was like it was flying, almost like it was flying. And yeah, that's how strong they are and how they can hack it in these secondary environments where we can't. And so they live there. Now, if you think about it, of course they're still around. Of freaking course they're still around. Wolves are still around, aren't they? Bears are still around, aren't they? Big cats are still around. All these predators, not all of them, but many predators that were around when these things were last around, and we know this from the fossil record, they've made it. They've survived till now. So why would it be, how could it be, that species that are infinitely more adaptable, infinitely smarter, infinitely stronger, infinitely superior predators, they can also eat anything, moss if they have to, dirt practically, just about anything, bark, you know, whatever, they can survive. There's so much food out there. People go, oh, you couldn't feed a big animal like that. Bullfrog. They can eat just about anything, and according to reports, they pretty much do. Now, a lot of them that live in rural areas eat large amounts of crops, but it's not enough. You know, if the farmers notice it, they don't care. But yeah, and sometimes they steal livestock and whatnot too. Some places they're nuisance animals, and everyone knows it. But anyways, so they're in these secondary niches, and of course they've survived. If these other predators have survived, these things are not only superior in all the ways I just named, they're also that much more cognizantly aware of the fact that you need to avoid the notice of humans at all costs, because we're nasty buggers, and you don't want to be noticed by us and seen as a threat or a competition of any kind. You just don't want it. Your species is not long for this earth if that's what you're about, and we find out. And so that's where they've been living ever since. They've never gone away. Now, a couple of major things that happened is, first of all, the Black Plague in Europe. Up until the Black Plague in Europe, there were depictions and descriptions of hominins all over churches and in literature. You know, they called it the wood woes, the hairy man, the wild man. They never called it Bigfoot or Sasquatch that I know of. Well, of course not, because those are North American names. Excuse me. Okay, that's a little better. Those are North American names as far as I know. And, but, you know, they were definitely the same thing. And Although they do appear a little bit more human and less ape-like than the American cousin, meaning they are a lot more Neanderthal-like. But now, mind you, Neanderthals look nothing like what we've been told, and I'm not alone in saying that. There are some of the most prominent anthropologists in the field these days are saying the same thing now, that what we've been seeing, the images of Neanderthals that we've been seeing for a long time, are just completely false. They were hair covered. They did not have heads that look anything like humans. They are monsters. They have big nocturnal eyes. They're hair covered. They're bigger than humans, not smaller. That's a myth. Some of the first bones they looked at of Neanderthals were just like old, decrepit bones and stuff like that, and maybe some juveniles. I can't remember what the case, but somebody that was sick. But yeah, Neanderthals were not generally shorter than humans. They weren't a lot taller, but they were taller in general, 5, 6, 7 feet. Humans, especially back then, were around 5 feet more on average, depending on where you were. But these European ones look more Neanderthalish, whatever. Neanderthals did look a little bit more human, caveman-like than probably Homo heidelbergensis or any of the other hominin species, any hominin species that were around. And so, let me see here. Now I'm going to do a quick search here. Where was I? Rewind. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I was talking about, I said how, okay, yeah, of course they didn't go extinct. If these other creatures didn't go extinct, these things have a much better idea, like I said, of, you know, you've got to avoid human notice. Oh, I know where I was. I had gotten to the Black Plague. So the Black Plague came through Europe, and afterwards, you don't see any more depictions of these creatures, because not only did it kill off the human population largely in Europe, so much of the human population, it killed off a large population of the hominins, surely as well. Not evolved from them, they are closely related. Explain that in a minute. And they can sometimes interbreed with us, as they're that close, and they can definitely get our diseases. And so after the plague, you don't see any more references to them in literature, hardly. You do see some, but not many. They're not all over the churches like they were beforehand. I mean, they were all over the place before the plague. They were well known to exist. And you just don't see that after the plague. Then what happens over here in North America, and the Native Americans will confirm this, pretty much almost without fail, there's like one Native American tribe that claims to not have a Sasquatch mythology, really, or they got something that's close enough though, but whatever. Pretty much across the board, and unfortunately in Western science, there's a little bit of a racist, well, these people are savages, you can't believe what they say, kind of an attitude. Whereas if this was all Westerners who were making this ubiquitous claim, these ubiquitously matching claims, no one would doubt it. But whatever. What I was saying is that when the Europeans came here to the New World, and the Native Americans will attest to this, are those European diseases that killed off so many of the Native Americans, a huge ton of the hominin species, or hominin population, I should say, here in North America, which appear to be made up of a large number of closely related species. Or just one species that's got a lot of variation. Most humans have a lot of variation, although these would appear to have even more than that. But that could also come from, you know, a lot of people say Patty from the Patterson-Gimlin footage looks like she does. You take the hair off her face, which a forensic, police artist did once. She looked nothing more. And it very well may be that the ones in that area are quite well known for having taken both Native American women to breed with, as well as the Chinese who were working on the railroads as well as gold mining in the area. They have quite a long tradition and record of stories and written accounts of their Chinese women and children being taken for food or for breeding purposes by the Sasquatch in the area. So it very well may be that Patty has some human in her very near past, and that may also be why she wasn't able to go to another dimension really quick when she heard these horses had come upon her. And I don't know if that really happens or not. I've certainly seen footage that looks like it sure is, and I've heard a lot of very credible, sincere people who've claimed to see this occur. And boy, some of that footage is real convincing, and it's older than AI too. Older than, you know, whatever. But anyways, I can't say I know for sure that they do those things, you know, going in and out of dimensions or whatever. If they do, it may be that Patty was unable to because she's was so much human in her from recent interbreeding. Who knows? This is just all speculation. The government obviously knows a lot about them. And how do I know? Because I've never heard of the government coming to ask a researcher what they know, to share what they know. And you know that if they didn't have the information already, they would most assuredly be asking for that information. It's national security. Of course they would. But what that tells me is about the whole subject. They've taken the things and dissected them and blah, 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 which we pretty much know that from credible whistleblowers and whatnot anyways. But, you know, that's also doubly confirmed by the fact that the government isn't asking any researchers for their research or for... Oh, okay. Okay, Mr. Osgood, you're going to be wrenched. Brandon F. and Mitchell, I swear I gave him a wrench. Add as a moderator. I might have to make this a 2-day talk or something because this is going on and on. But let's see, how many people do I got in here? 9 still? Okay, I'll keep going for now. Who's fascinated out there? Oh, Miss Daisy. Hey, nice to see you. East Carbone. I'm giving you guys all mods status because this is so that you guys can go to each other's channels and hook up and, you know, just leave a hello with people and hey, I subscribed and I'm busy listening to the fascinating WassamattaU right now, but I'll be back to check out your material once I'm done being enthralled by him. Okay. Now, you guys distracted me. Oh, yes. So, the Western diseases came through North America and killed off a huge portion of the Sasquatch population. And it may be that that's why. So before that, you know, most of the Native Americans said, hey, they were trading with these things on a regular basis or even at war with them in some cases. A lot more cases they traded with them, although there were some cases where they like traded these things for baskets for meat or whatever, and the things came back in the night with the baskets and used them to kidnap their children and other horror stories like that. But yeah, there was a lot more of them around when Leif Erikson came to the New World in the 1400s. Or wait, let's see, was it Leif Erikson? Yeah, or was it his son? Whichever one it was. Yeah, it was Leif Erikson. Hold on here. 1 second. When he came to the Americas, and he was basically hunting Native Americans for sport, him and his Vikings were. Just, you know, they had superior steel weapons and armor and blah, 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 and they hadn't lost a single man out doing this, hunting for Native Americans. Until, that is, one day they were in the midst of their fun, and all of a sudden a basketball-sized rock comes flying through, or a head-sized rock comes flying at a cannonball trajectory right through them and takes out like 2 of them at once. And they look up and there are these, what they described as swarthy giants, meaning hair-covered giants. I think swarthy means hair-covered. Yeah. Swarthy giant, 10-foot tall, 11-foot tall giants that were throwing rocks. They couldn't stand up against it, these mighty Vikings. They got on their ship and they fled. and they lost a number of them, and they didn't go back. And so that's what drove them out of North America and ended their little fun sport of slaughtering Native Americans. So we have many, many accounts of this. Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett, they all had Sasquatch experiences. Davy Crockett's is a little bit iffy. The one that he saw supposedly talked to him for quite a while. But boy, if it doesn't meet the exact other than that, if it doesn't meet the perfect description of a Sasquatch, and you know, who knows, he might not have wanted to sound, you know, I mean, he already probably sounded crazy, but he didn't want to sound too crazy, so he might not have mentioned the fact that this thing was speaking to him in mind speak in his head, which that very well could be, because a lot of credible people report that now. I mean, I'm sorry to say, I didn't used to, it took me long enough to come to accept the fact that these creatures were actually out there, being raised in an agnostic / atheist household, and having attended university for 8.5 years or whatever. It took me a while to actually accept that these creatures were out there, and then just at first I was on board with like those flute player people who claim this and that. I didn't want to hear it even. It bothered me, because I'm like, this is the reason why we can't get people to understand that these things are real. But then the more that you study this, the more that you start realizing there's a whole hell of a lot more going on with this world than you ever would have imagined. And it's just, you can't have people reporting the exact same things, same details, people who live in different continents or decades apart across the United States, never spoke to each other. This is pre-internet. They don't know each other's stories, and they're saying the same exact things. And there's such a wealth of it, and that's only the people who actually ever said anything, because you can imagine probably only 1 in 20 or 1 in 50 people who have these experiences are ever going to be willing to talk about it to the public. So maybe less. And so in spite of all that, you've got this unending almost list of these credible people from all walks of life who are sincere, and they have really nothing to gain from telling their stories and a lot to potentially lose. Employment, credibility, clients from their work or job, just whatever. And so yeah, they're not looking for fame, and they're not making stuff up. So we need to start believing people, whether this be in regards to Sasquatch, abductions, dogmans, which, by the way, there was more reported dogman. There were more dogman reports last year in North America than there were Sasquatch. It was a very close thing, I understand, but there are actually more dogman reports. And some Sasquatch reports are thought to be dogman mistaken identity. They were really dogman, because a lot of old, there are Sasquatch that have a baboon-like proboscis. They don't have, and they've got a much larger, what's called a prognathous mouth. Like an ape has, that kind of sticks out in front of it. They've got that, and so for a long time at first, people were like, oh, well, the dogman reports, they must be these baboon-like Sasquatch, and people are just mistaking them for canine creatures. But no, it's actually probably the opposite. There's probably a lot of dogman sightings where people couldn't figure out where to put this creature that they saw in a classification, and they decided to go with Sasquatch because it's just the only thing that made sense to them. But in a lot of cases, they describe these muzzles that are larger than and also the ears on top of the head, or even the reverse articulated lower legs like a dog has. So it's probably, and I'll tell you, for those who are skeptical out there, it took me even longer to accept that there are dogmen and that's a real thing, because you can explain the Sasquatch, at least with the admitted fossil record. I now believe we have plenty of fossil record for dogmans too, but it's just not admitted. But whatever. Even with the known fossil record, you can kind of explain Sasquatch, and we branched off them somehow, or were made from them somehow, or whatever. And it's just the dogman thing. It's like, what? A canine that's got, primate features to it? Some primate... That just seems unlikely because a canine could never mate with a human. However, now dogmen vary. Some of them are much like wolves and don't really have those human features. They're just wolves that walk around their rear legs a lot. That definitely happens. I don't think those are true dogmen. Sometimes there's those that are really large, though. Really, really large, and then you gotta wonder. But then there are also the true dogman, what appears to be the true dogman. We don't know this stuff. This is just speculation, but anyways, they have more. And according to the people who did the Sasquatch genome program, they then started out to test some of these samples of dogmans that people were sending in, and they said that yes, indeed, they have the DNA of canines and of primates mixed together in there. So, and I pretty much trust those people because despite what you may have heard, the Sasquatch Genome Project was 100% legit. Those people, they put their blood, sweat, and tears, their own money into that study. And it was expensive back then too. And what they did is, almost all of the samples that they had a chain of custody that was immaculate, meaning somebody saw the Sasquatch reaching over a dumpster and it pulled its arms away and some hair was left there, and they went and used tongs to put it into a paper envelope and they sent it off to this person, blah, 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 blah. That kind of chain of custody. Or the one I'm talking about was actually collected by law enforcement there at the Hoopa Reservation. And anyways, Scott Carpenter provided a lot of the samples. He did things like put packing tape on trees in the reverse so that the sticky side was out. And then he would put like bacon grease all over the tree that they'd want to get up there and lick, or try to scoop off with their hands. And so then they would brush up against this reverse packing tape and leave nice genetic samples, hair samples with the roots there, which you need to have the roots with them because unlike us, like our hair, 9 out of 10 of our hairs has a medulla in the center. And the medulla is the dark area that's got all the DNA in it in the middle of the hair. And that's how we get DNA from a human hair. Now their hair is the opposite. Like 9 out of 10 of their hairs do not have medullas in them. So they're worthless for getting DNA from unless you've got the roots on there. So he was, very smart at getting those. He also did this, he got saliva by leaving candy bars out there in the wrapper because he noticed that if he didn't unwrap them for them, that they would clearly be shoving the things in their mouth and chewing them up and spitting the wrapper out and never opening them first and then eating the candy bar. So he put candy bars and wrappers out there and then collected those wrappers. They were full of their saliva. And he just did all kinds of brilliant stuff, simple stuff that anyone should have thought of, but no one did. And in the end, between him and all the other people, another like 25 people who provided samples, they had like 103 samples. And these samples didn't just go directly to DNA testing. They went first to a hair morphologist who can look at the hair, and they have collections of different hairs of all the species in a given area and from all over the world often. And so they looked at these hairs first because of DNA, especially DNA testing being so expensive. They looked at these hairs first and tested or checked them, and they said, no, these are not human hairs, but they are close to human hairs. They're definitely not human though. For one cut, you could tell when hair's never been cut because it has like a tapered end rather than a cut straight off like ours does after we get haircuts and whatnot. And it doesn't have a medulla like human hair, blah, blah, blah. Generally speaking, a very few, and blah, blah, blah. And so they just said, this is not a known species. So that's the first step. Then they went to the DNA testing. Now, a lot of people have slammed Melba Ketchum the woman who did the DNA testing. But before this, her testimony had put people on death row. It had exonerated people in court. She is a DNA expert and was a DNA expert. Yes, she has a degree in veterinary medicine. If you know anything about that, you understand it becomes longer to take a vet than it does to become a vet than it does a surgeon, a human surgeon, pretty much, because you've got to learn all the different animals. You can't just learn. I always thought they should specialize, but you can't just be like a mammal veterinarian, or you got to know lizard, how to fix a sick frog or a sick whatever, lizard, blah blah blah, bird. So anyway, she's a brilliant woman. And so then for the testing costs, her and David Politis, who did a lot of the organizing of the whole thing, which I don't like him. He's an ex-cop. I don't like his politics. But I do believe that his work in the Sasquatch field and also in the missing 411 fields is 100% legitimate. Full credibility, and all, what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever. He's a credible person. I believe fully that he has all honor and truthfulness in those studies that he's done. I just don't like the guy's politics and blah blah blah, and that he was an ex-cop, and he talks about arresting poor addicts sometimes and stuff. I don't like that part of him. Whatever. And I don't like the way that he uses his ex-law enforcement status to try to get special interviews and special privileges in places and blah blah blah. But whatever. I think his work is 100% legit, and I'll stake anything on it. And so him and Melba Ketchum, who was doing the DNA tests, and Scott Carpenter, who provided a lot of the samples, and a lot of these people, they're not rich people at all. None of them were. And they put a lot of their own money into testing these things, to having them looked at by the hair morphologist first and then tested. And they did everything right. They crossed every T and dotted every I. They had their white paper done with like 6 PhDs instead of just 1 or 2, like as the minimum requirement. And there were a lot of prominent people that originally were signed onto the project. A number of them pulled their names from it after it became clear what was going to happen. But basically, once they had the thing all done and they put all this work into it, the results were startling. And people didn't like the results, and they didn't. So nobody wanted. They got it from all ends. They got it from the Bigfoot world, which is full of jealous people who wanted to do it first and didn't, and don't like the results because they're looking for a North American ape, which this is not. And they wanted it to be a North American ape, and it's not. And so they get it from all those people, and then. The Bigfoot world is just vicious like that. It's a vicious place. And then they also get it from the lamestream scientific community. I'm sure most people in this chat understand. Oh, East Carbon is still not a... Most people in this chat, oh yes he is, understand that lamestream science is bull BS. It's has more to do with money than science. And they didn't like that a bunch of amateurs... you can't go in as a bunch of amateurs and do a project like this and have it well received by the professionals and the professors in the lamestream science community. They're not going to like that. So they just got it from every end. And then what ended up happening is they had the study all done, and they started to send it away to different journals. And you can read about all this in a book called Truth Denied by Scott Carpenter, the Sasquatch Genome Project. And he has all the emails in there, in that book, and everything, all the proof laid out for what I'm saying. They basically started sending the white paper out to all these different nature journals and places, wanting somebody to publish it, and all these universities. And they all came back immediately excited when they hadn't yet been told what they were looking at. They came back immediately excited and talking about, oh my gosh, what's happened? Have you found a new type of human living among us or somewhere, and blah blah blah. And when they came back and said, no, these are Sasquatch, boom, every one of them wanted nothing to, even though they had said, oh yeah, we're going to publish this for you, this is awesome, what is this, a new species of human? As soon as it came back that it was Sasquatch, they either just stopped replying altogether, or they came back with some nasty BS and wouldn't do it. So after they'd put all this time, blood, sweat, tears, money into the Sasquatch Genome Project, and then this was happening, Melba finally just broke down and bought a Nature journal and published the damn thing herself. And that has been the number one criticism of that study, and the number one thing that's just shot it down. None of these mainstream scientists at that point want to even look at it and say for themselves, is this legit or not? No, because they're cliquish. They're very cliquish, you know, popular. You don't go against the grain there. It's like the worst middle school, high school BS that you could ever imagine. And so they just, you know, it was either toss all the shit in the garbage, all the work they done in the garbage, excuse my French, and swear jar is getting expensive. It's either toss all that in the garbage or go ahead and do what they did. Those were the only two options, and unfortunately for them, that's been used as the excuse to dismiss. Now, what the findings were was that it's another type of human. It's very closely related to us. Now, on the mitochondrial side, on the female mother side, it is human, 100%. The genetics were 100% human on the mitochondrial side. On the nuclear side was genetics that were not recognized in by GenBank. They ran it through GenBank multiple times. They're not known of from this earth. And, you know, that's kind of one of the secrets about human beings, too, that they just don't talk about, because it's like, well, yeah, there's no other, there's just humans on Earth, and so blah, blah, blah. But we also have DNA that doesn't appear, it doesn't make sense in most any way. We've got, you know, all this, quote, junk DNA. That's not junk DNA. There is no such thing as junk DNA. That's stupid. How would junk DNA how would junk DNA come to be in a world of evolution if that's how things worked? It wouldn't. That's just dumb. And our second and third base pairs of our DNA are fused together in a very ingenious way that allows them to continue to function, but it does several things. It also cuts down our lifespan, because that's where the telomere caps were placed on the ends of the base pairs. Cuts our lifespan. We should live around 260 years probably, if it wasn't for those telomere caps. And it also, like I said, it cuts the number of base pairs down. It actually ends up cutting the number of base pairs down by 2. I could explain the math of that to you. I don't know if you'd be interested. No, I'm not going to do it. Just trust me, it cuts the number of base pairs down by 2 of the DNA base pairs. And the reason for that has got to be, if that was done on purpose, which if you corner any geneticist, any DNA expert, and you corner them and you say, look, could this happen through evolution, this fusing of the second and third base pairs like this, where they still function and blah, 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 and these telomere caps are here on the end of this, could that happen naturally? And if you corner them, they will all, 100% of them will admit, no, that could never happen naturally through evolution. And but then they'll turn around and still say, well, yeah, but humans evolved on this planet naturally. It's dumb. But whatever the case, you know, basically one of the DNA experts cornered had said something like, it would be more likely for a hurricane to blow through a junkyard, create a working jet engine. That's just, you know, a tornado, I mean, not a hurricane, a tornado to blow through a junkyard and create a working jet fighter, I think he said. Even jet engine, whatever. Wow, the kids are still out here partying at the park. What time is it? I don't know, don't care. Can you hear them? You can probably hear them. This is good, worth covering right here. Sounds like they're fighting. What the heck? I'm not breaking it up because I don't care. Even though I'll throw a bunch of fucking high schoolers around like rag dolls. They don't want none. We don't want none. Anyways, yeah, I'm a Bigfoot. You don't want none. Oh, that distracted me. Oh yeah, so Sasquatch genome was legitimate, I said, and that it was all for nothing and blah blah blah. And oh yeah, I was talking about our weird base pairs. And so the reason that that was done is almost assuredly has to do with you can't achieve osmosis without, you can't make a hybrid with a sperm and an egg unless they have the same number of base pairs. Let's just put it most simplify the science. You have to have the same number of base pairs, and otherwise you're not going to achieve fertilization, osmosis, whatever. You're fun, youngins. And that would have been done. Then, the telomere caps were put in there to shorten our lives and block us off from our mental potential, our intellectual and artistic potentials, etc. And man, they're gonna be so loud when I walk by them. And you know what? I'm just gonna keep walking on the trail. I think. No, I'm gonna walk by. I don't care. It'll be chill. And so let's see here. I'm trying to do two things at once here. Keep an eye on things and continue my little talk here. I don't really want to continue it in front of them because it's just too lame. So I'm just going to take a quick break here for a second of jabbering away. There's a 16-year-old who's so drunk she's got to be carried by two of her friends. Oh, wow. Yeah, they're over here getting hammered. Anyways, that's fine with me. I'm not going to tell them. Even though they're throwing the damn beer cans out here, they're 4 Loco cans, but that's all right. The homeless will be happy to go out, gather them up, I'm sure. And so yeah, God, they're loud. And oh boy, that one threw me off. I usually don't get completely thrown off on my little jabbering. Maybe I should think about ending this here. It's probably been enough of an earload for everybody. Let's see here. Where are we? Should I end this here, or are people actually like listening enthralled? I've been walking this whole time, quite at a good pace too, so I'm fine with ending it. But that's lesson 1. I guess tomorrow night we'll continue with lesson 2, where we left off with the achieving fertilization with the hybrid, needing the same number of base pairs of DNA in order to do that, and how impossible it is that our DNA is configured the way it was naturally through evolution. And tomorrow I will continue to explain why it is that the human fossil record is no such thing, why it is that the descendants of that fossil record are still alive today, thriving in the forests, right outside the final lights of our most suburban homes, and rural areas, farms and whatnot, where again, there are small towns in this country where these things are, pest animals basically that get into the garbage and make big messes, take livestock, take pets. And one thing I think I got cut off on earlier was the dog man too. And I was just going to say it was even much, much harder for me to come to believe that. But eventually, first of all, there's now been footage caught that proves they exist. But it also, my belief, also began to come from the thousands of accounts, eyewitness accounts from some of the most best people in the world, all walks of life. Just go listen to it, like Dogman Encounters, or I would, I'm gonna put a recommendation after this for which Dogman Encounters to start off with, if you're interested at all to hearing. I'll put one on there that's freaking excellent, and you can tell the guy's telling the truth. He didn't expect the things to exist either, and he has quite a story to tell. He lives in a rural home, and what happened to him. And I'll put a link to that think I believe it's episode 207 of Dogman Encounters, but I'll double confirm that after this. I'll put that link in my community area so that you can go listen to the first account where you're gonna listen to that and be like, this dude is telling the truth. And I already spoke earlier about that, about believing people and this stupid habit that we have of just dismissing large numbers of credible people with consistent stories, often traumatized people with PTSD. Wow, I swear I just saw a ghost. There was somebody on the other side of this walking, and I kept expecting them to come up. They went on this side of the tree, and I just kept watching and watching for them to come out on this side of the tree, and they never did. So they're either a ghost or they're behind the tree right now. Which, either that or I was just seeing stuff here, but I mean, that was weird. Maybe I was seeing stuff. This is why a lot of this stuff escapes our notice, because we doubt ourselves. See, I'm going to doubt myself now and say, well, maybe I didn't see somebody, but I swear, sure as crap I did. That is weird. I was like, why is this person not coming up the other side of that tree? Are they up to no good, getting ready to ambush me? Because I'm very aware of my surroundings. If you see that coyote video, like I see that one coming up behind me, no problem. Even though I'm focused on the one in front of me. And I saw that person. That is so weird. Okay, well, I'm not trying to get too woo here. I'm just going to be totally disbelieved by everyone, but that's just weird. Anyways, moving on. This stream is coming to an end, but that's where we'll pick up tomorrow. And yeah, I understand the skepticism about the Dogman, but also understand, and I have a video coming out about this in not too long as well. Also understand, oh, the park people are here to confront the kids. That truck is the park people. Maybe there's going to be some action. I should walk over there and record, should I not? I think I will. Okay, this stream is not going to end as quickly as I thought, because I am going to record this if there's anything to see. Let me see here. Every cigarette I light, I just let it go out while I babble. I'm just wasting the damn thing. Okay, so let's see what this park person does about these kids. But yeah, that's going to be where we'll pick up tomorrow. Again, the Dogman. Oh yeah, I understand skepticism, but I have a video coming out here soon about the literal 6,000 plus years, just like Sasquatch, 6,000 plus years of consistent descriptions and reports. Herodotus, who wrote the first history book, where he literally said, I'm setting out to write this book right now about, you know, the life and times that's going on here, so it'll be like the first recorded history book. This is in ancient Greece. And he said, and I'm going to, anytime that I come across anything that's supernatural or that I don't believe, I'm going to look for a natural explanation and try to find the more, and that was revolutionary at the time. Nonetheless, he talks about these bipedal dog creatures that lived all over at that time, and he talks about them in a manner where you could tell that he expects his readers to already know that they exist and not doubt it. He doesn't speak about them as this, oh hey, guess what, there is. He talks about it like everyone knows them. And they're in a lot, they show up in a lot of literature. The St. Christopher, a lot of people have no clue. St. Christopher was a dog man. He was the dog-headed saint. Now that's been largely changed in the church lore, but that is what he originally was. And there was a big, like 150-year-long debate in the church as to whether or not these things had souls and could be saved or not. And St. Christopher was kind of the initial one to prove that, hey, these things do have souls, just like all living creatures on the planet, and they can be saved. Oh, is that a cop? It's either a cop or a park person. We're about to find out. And they do have souls that can be saved. And so, oh, bloody hell, I think that could be a cop. No, it's a park person. Oh, darn it. Okay. Yeah, so there's a 6,000-year-long plus history of these things. Marco Polo also spoke about them as if there was no question that they do exist. And so don't be so fast to judge. Don't be so fast to be skeptical and think that someone's crazy. Because if you just listen to a few accounts, I think you're going to have your mind changed. There's also a video that proves the things exist. It's a video of creatures with bipedal creatures with reverse articulated legs, and it was the analyst who did the analysis was able to rule out every bipedal species, every ape species, etc. on the planet by doing body ratio measurements, which it did not fit any of them. It's an unknown, as yet undocumented species of some kind that's bipedal with reverse articulated legs. And so, and it was filmed in the United States as well. So we can pretty much count on dogman existing based on that footage. I mean, to deny it would be cognitive dissonance the worst type, especially with all consistent reports from so many thousands of years and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so this is actually a ranger. So it says, call 911 emergency ranger, Portland Parks Ranger. Right here. 788-061. Maybe I can stop him from messing with these kids' fun if I just chill here for a minute and record. Do that, then he wouldn't be. I don't know. We'll see here in a minute. I'm going to park myself here. I don't care about my bum getting a little wet. I'll sit down on this rock. Okay, I'm not going to do that. Actually, I'll pull my pants up a little bit. Okay. So we'll see here. What is this guy waiting for? Is he waiting for a police backup? Or is he... I guess I can turn the camera around to the back camera, can't I? Oh, let me see here. Let's try that. If I'm free to leave, then I'm free to stay. I will tell him that, Brent. Thank you. Hey, Lucy, good to see you there. I hope everybody is hooking up with each other. You know, subscribing to everyone else's channel. Smoking is the key, Mr. Osgood. You're right. It's the key to winning the... how is Jody still not a mod? Is that possible? Made Jody a mod. What the heck? Add as moderator? What? I'm so sorry, Jody. I thought I did that quite a while ago. Okay. Cause a diversion and run. That, Mr. Bones. Thank you for the suggestion. Oh, this is how we turn the camera. Okay. Yes, okay, so the kids are escaping, it looks like. They're smart enough to know. The ranger's here, the cops are probably coming. I don't know why they gotta bother the kids. Let the kids have fun. Who cares? Look at, here's parents that are looking for their kids. It looks like parents that are looking for their kids. Uh-oh, somebody's gonna get in trouble. Somebody's in trouble for being at the park. Let the kids party, Mom.
Pablo.
Okay, maybe it's not in trouble.
Come on, get me some.
All right, they're getting them out. They're getting them out of here before the cops can come. That's good. Because I have a feeling this ranger's probably calling the cops here. I don't know. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's a cool ranger. Maybe he's not calling them. I don't know.
Let me stop.
Okay.
You got a lighter?
I kind of do. I've got a very tricky lighter. You have to use 2 lighters.
Pablo.
You need it really badly?
You got a light?
You need a light really bad? Because I got a tricky lighter, but I can do it for you. All right. Yeah. Well, the problem is...
Loud-ass teenagers. Loud-ass teenagers, man. I got one of them cool. Let me see it. Let me just... Okay. Now look. I want to stay there.
Yep. All right. So kids are getting picked up. Everybody's leaving, it looks like. Just in time, they're all escaping from the ranger. From the ranger who's gonna, the 4-tie ranger. Some of them have to be carried out. That's all right. It's perfectly okay. The blonde can barely stand up. Okay. Yeah, so the excitement's over. I'm going to go ahead and end this stream because clearly the ranger was a halfway cool ranger and he decided that he wasn't going to bust the kids, which is good. Okay. Time to go on home. My duty is done here. Dun, 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 dun. Super WassamattaU has done. I'm going to believe that ranger did not go out there and harass those kids because I was there filming. I'm going to go lay my head on the pillow and feel good about that. Blue poo piggies. That's right there, Mr. Bones. Okay, so we all know where we're picking up the stream tomorrow. Hopefully some of y'all will tune back in. Hopefully you all hooked up and got your channels all together. Everybody's got each other's channels. Everyone's subscribed to everyone else. I see there's a troll or two that got taken out. That's fine. All right. So I'm going to end this now. Take a bow to all of my many friends and fans and groupies. Okay. All right. I'll see y'all later.